All right, welcome into the latest edition of the Growler. We're doing something we've never done before. No, you've talked to Dane Brugler before many times here on this show. Usually it's in like March and April, or maybe we touch base in January. No, here we are on November, whatever it is now, and we're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals draft picks. Dane Brugler, author of The Beast. Make sure you check out the podcast now, Building the Beast, which comes out every Wednesday with Dave Hellman on the Athletic Network. Dane, how are you doing? Good to see you this time of year.
I'm good. Yeah, we usually don't chat, at least on air. I mean, we'll chat behind the scenes, but chat on air before Thanksgiving. But I mean, here we are. It's been an interesting season to say the least. And we got a lot to talk about because this is a team that hasn't been picking in the top 10 since Ja'Marr Chase.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so it's been a minute, and there's a lot of ways this team could go, and so let's try to fix this team.
Well, I have one question I have to ask you on top of because all Bengals fans have asked me this. Would you be interested in the Bengals general manager job?
I mean, look, hey, they've got a quarterback, right? So that's a good place to start.
No, you specifically. They want you.
Hey, and that's what I'm saying. They've got a quarterback, so yeah, that's
you'll answer the phone, is what you're saying. Okay,
absolutely. You got your quarterback.
Right, I'm writing down. I'm writing down not no. I'm writing down not no.
There you go. There you go. All right. Well, this podcast will be my audition tape, and the Bengals send it to the Bengals. They can look at it and say like, all right, this is who we need to look at, and they'll be in good shape.
I just it's what fans have been asked. Can Dane be our GM? I've seen this question a lot. Also, one rule: defense talk only. I'm not going to entertain offensive players. I'm not going to discuss offensive players. No, I don't want to hear about Jerry. I listened to Building the Beast, and I heard Dave try to adopt Jeremiah Love, and stop right there. Just cut him off. If a single offensive player shows up, maybe on the entire Bengals draft board this year, there should be reason for people to scream and yell. But I'm just going to focus on the top 10. I want people to understand this top 10 because it's a place the Bengals haven't been. Let's just start here. Like you mentioned people should read the top 50. You have that out now. You kind of mentioned, you talk about on the podcast, the top 10 feels unsettled is a word that you used, maybe not as strong as in recent years. What is the state of the top 10 of this draft?
Yeah, I think unsettled, that's the word I've been using, and I think it fits, especially now where we don't have the exact class yet in terms of underclassmen. We don't know how many quarterbacks are going to be in this class. Obviously, the Bengals aren't in the quarterback market, but they want as many quarterbacks as possible to come out. That's going to push good players to them wherever they end up picking between, say, 8 and 14, somewhere in that range. So, not knowing Fernando Mendoza from Indiana and Dante Moore, Oregon, Ty Simpson, Alabama, does Lenora Sellers come out from South Carolina? Those are the big dominoes, and once those fall, we'll have a better idea of how that top 10 is going to shake out. But just looking at the non-quarterback talent, it's a tough year because we don't have that Ja'Marr Chase or Myles Garrett or Travis Hunter last year where, okay, that's the guy. There's a clear guy at the top, and then maybe there's a couple guys in that top tier, and then that second tier fills out, the 6 to 12 range, and that looks pretty good. Like we don't really have that this year. There's some good players. Arvell Reese from Ohio State, my top ranked player in this draft. He's awesome. He can be a stand-up linebacker, as a spy, a guy that's going to be dominant versus the run, but you also want to use him as an edge rusher. You want him getting after the quarterback. That's what I think really separates him. The violence that he plays with, the burst, just the overall total package that he offers. But and nothing against Arvell Reese, but him being the number one player in this class is not the most, it's not the most exciting for what this top 10 is. And behind him, Caleb Downs is at number 3, Caleb Downs is an awesome football player out of Ohio State, smart, tough, physical, athletic. There's just checked boxes for what you want in an NFL starting safety. But again, we're talking about the top 10 here, and NFL has told us how they feel about drafting safeties early. But Caleb Downs is undoubtedly one of the best players in this draft. So I think the top 10 is going to look very different from team to team. Some offensive linemen are probably going to get pushed up, even though they probably shouldn't, but they're going to in this class because teams need offensive linemen. But just in terms of the blue chip talent, the guys that are just you have to watch them for maybe 2 minutes, and then you know right away this is a dude. This draft doesn't have a ton of those guys.
So step one for Bengals fans, turn on the Ohio State defense tape, watch them, enjoy them, and just take that in. I mean, that's because it's also going to be about, okay, what to watch, what can change over the course of the rest of this season. The big game season is coming up, the playoff is coming up, and particularly players on an Ohio State defense, right? They're going to shine. They're going to have opportunities to move themselves up. I mean, how much do you feel like some of when we get into whether it's Arvell Reese or Caleb Downs, or we talk about Ruben Bain from Miami or Keldrick Falk or any of these guys, how much can these defensive players maybe solidify that top 10 more? Is that still in play, or does it feel a little more like, no, we kind of know who they are right now?
I mean, I think we kind of know, but there's still games to be played. So there's more tape to be watched. There's more evidence to gather. And especially with the Ohio States, we'll see if Miami gets into the playoff. Those games are big stages, a chance to really show out and kind of plant your flag and say, okay, this is why I need a little bit of a bump, and you're not taking me as serious as you should. And so, Ohio State's a great example. We talked about Arvell Reese and Caleb Downs. Sonny Styles is the other 6'4", 240-pound linebacker on that Buckeyes defense, who is a really good athlete, former safety, who I could easily see him going top 15 by the time it's all said and done because of the athleticism, how big he is. He's a young player. He is still just 21 years old. And so I think he could be in play, especially if he has a big game against Michigan and then in the playoffs. And so, yeah, there's a lot. As long as there's games to be played, there is more things that we can learn about these players, and hopefully maybe a few even late risers who come into the picture that maybe we didn't anticipate. I mean, last year at this time, I think I had just watched Armand Membu for the first time. And it was like, oh, this is a guy. And that doesn't happen often, but he was a underclassman who I wasn't expecting to come out. And then I started to get word that, hey, I think Membu's coming out. All right, I'll watch him. And it's like, oh, wow, this guy's awesome. So hopefully we get a few more guys like that who kind of creep into the picture and can end up going in that top 12, top 15 range. But, we can cross our fingers.
I want to ask you one more thing about Reese and Downs. Reese, he seems to be this fit for what Al Golden. Now, is Al Golden still here? I don't know. These are all the weird questions that you go into, but right. Al, who's trying to play Demetrius Knight in that role, the hybrid outside linebacker, edge rusher. Arvell Reese is that position, right? Like he is that does both of them, high end off the edge, also can play your linebacker, do your linebacker stuff, which Al Golden so desperately, needs, and is trying to put square pegs around holes with that. That's Arvell Reese, right? I mean, that's that position in an Al Golden defense, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a ton of reps in terms of just dropping in coverage and covering tight ends. They'll drop him and he'll cover a Texas route versus a running back, or zone drop into the flat, do these different things. But for the most part, he's getting up the field. They want him attacking the pocket at Ohio State. That's how now a lot of times that he's spying, he's waiting, and then you see the burst and go get it. But there's nothing about his profile that says, oh, he can't do this, can't do that. He is exactly how you want to build a modern day linebacker. And he started a little bit last year when I think it was Cody Simon when he was hurt. But this is really his first year as a full-time starter and has really blossomed. But you still feel like he's going to grow. He's going to develop some more and get better and better. But I do think there will be plenty of debate throughout the process about, all right, should we just make him a full-time edge rusher? Because that's some of his best tape is when he's off the edge. He has the length, the violence to do that. And I think that that should be part of his profile. So if you're going to draft an Arvell Reese in the top 10, if you want to draft him as an off-ball linebacker, that's fine. But especially on passing downs, third downs, drop him down, go to a NASCAR package, let him put his hand on the ground, let him use that burst and that athleticism to go get the quarterback.
So the Bengals are currently at 9, I guess, at 3-7, but they have a lot of L's in front of them potentially, and they can come up. Arvell Reese, what's his floor? Is there a possibility these two could match?
Like I said, I think the top 10 is going to be wild. There won't be any
Yeah.
consensus. So
Okay.
if the Bengals finish with the 6th pick and Reese is there, it's certainly possible. I think it will take some of these underclassmen quarterbacks coming out to maybe drive down a player like that. And I think that it's interesting at the top of this draft right now. It's the Titans and the Giants, two teams that don't need a quarterback. So, are we going to see a lot of trade action? Whether it's the Browns, the Saints, the Jets, teams looking to go up to get a Fernando Mendoza, whoever it may be. So, it's obviously too early to say exactly where we feel good Reese will be, but I think it's at least worth talking about and having him on as part of the conversation for the Bengals.
One thing I wanted to point out about Downs that you said on your podcast, you talked about him as the type of guy you put in. Yeah, he's a safety. Maybe you don't do that, but a culture setter, a culture shift, a reset type of guy. What have you seen behind the scenes in terms of him being that type of guy that can come in and really change the dynamic and be a leader? Because they are devoid of those here.
Well, so in last year's draft at the combine, talking to Ohio State guys, I always like asking about future players and prospects. And I remember talking to Jack Sawyer about Caleb Downs, and he was just effusive in his praise. He's like, he's just never seen a player like Caleb Downs for a guy his age to his professional approach, the way that he attacked everything, meetings, practice. I mean, it's like he's been groomed for this since he was, a young kid. Just the mindset of, okay, I'm going to get every ounce of talent that I have out of this, and I'm going to make sure I maximize everything. So, and scouts, they back that up. Talking to a scout last week about the Ohio State team and their prospects. I mean, that phone call took like 2 hours. But Downs is very much a process guy. So the way he prepares, the way that he can influence the game, like he's not going to get hung up on interceptions. He's not going to get hung up on the stats. He is very much a process guy and that's why the coaches love him at Ohio State. And I think the NFL coaches will love him as well. So definitely the way he works and prepares is something that will help him get on the field early and help rub off on the rest of the room and that kind of thing. But yeah, he is very much a guy that can, maybe not be the loudest guy in the room, but just the way he approaches everything sets an example for everybody else.
I need to ask you specifically about some of the maybe the other defensive linemen. They just so badly need pass rush. They so badly need help. They have not had a disruptive 3 technique really since Geno Atkins was in his prime here. A true dude like that. Is Peter Woods that? What has happened with him this year? It feels like he was at the top of the top people were talking about, and now we see his name a little bit further down in your top 50. Can he be that guy that can be a true disruptive top 10 3 technique?
I think he can be. He has it in him. Like it's the body of work this year has not been that, but the flashes have been there. He's a really nimble big man for a guy that size. His lateral quickness. I mean, they play him on offense. I think he has like 2 touchdowns already this year. Like they'll get him in some of those goal line situations, and they'll play him on offense because he is such an impressive athlete. But yeah, I mean, you watch his tape, and it's like, okay, he finds the football really well. He can detach in the run game, make plays, really agile. But there's also plays where, okay, he got out leveraged or, just he was there, but he couldn't finish. And so I think there's a lot of almost plays with him that's really holding him back especially if you box score scout. If you just look at the stats, it's not going to blow you away. But then you watch the tape and you're like, okay, I see it there. I see it there. I want to see it a little bit more. Okay, he's explosive getting off the block, but then he wasn't in position to make the play. So I think there's some things that, he's learning through. I mean, he's a young player. I think he's still 20. Yeah, he doesn't turn 21 until March, I believe. So this is a young player who is second year as a full-time starter for Clemson, still working through some development things. So I don't want to stamp him as this or that. Like he'll definitely be the guy that can come in and be a Geno Atkins level player. but you at least see the promise of something close to that. And so I think that's something that'll help keep him in that top 12 to 15 conversation.
I want to say that I was reading your bio on Keldrick Falk, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I already see the players Bengals fans are saying, please don't do this. Like
Right.
Bengals fans are so scarred from the traitsy edge, and are just like, oh no, is that what the next one's going to look like? Is he the next sort of traits based edge that has been a Bengals target in recent years?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, 6'6", 275. And I mean, stop me if you've heard this before, but
Yeah.
the way that Auburn uses him, like he's never going to be a big sack guy because they'll play him, head up over the tackle or inside is more of a 4-eye and on the inside shoulder of the tackle. And so they're not letting him be wide 9 and be outside the tackle where he can just rush the quarterback. And so the sack numbers aren't super impressive, but the way that they use him, I mean, he stacks and sheds efficiently. He's a big guy with physical hands who can create movement. There is a noticeable thud when he makes contact. There is knockback at the point of attack, so he can detach in the run game. I get Mikael Williams vibes from him.
Okay.
Who, I mean, last year he went 10th, 11th to the 49ers. And he was one of the youngest players in the draft who more flashes than full body of work that you want. But and now unfortunately he's out this year with an ACL for the Niners. But that type of player where big, physical, good athlete, youngest player in the draft. He's not going to be 21 until like September. So, he is a very, very young player who has a lot of ability. And I won't be shocked at all if he's the number 1 player in the draft for some teams, just based off of the potential. But I can certainly understand if Bengals fans, if that's a player they want to avoid, especially with a team that feels like they need help now. This isn't like a 2-3 year projection. And, by 2027 we'll be, a productive team. They need someone that's going to come in pretty quickly and give you quality reps.
Well, I will let you get out of here. This has been great to catch up this time of year. We should hopefully we don't have to do it too much more often for the sake of the hearts of Bengals fans that are currently broken. But it's fun to turn ahead to what this could be. What are you most excited? I'll let you get out here on this. What are you most excited about to watch on the defensive side of the ball over the rest of the season? Is there something that you are really curious about that you just feel like will be maybe the most fascinating part that could impact the draft?
Well, yeah, I mean, I want to see the Ohio State defense against Michigan, and then I want to see them go. Selfishly, I want to see them beat Michigan so we get to see them in the Big Ten championship game against Fernando Mendoza and that Indiana offense. I think that'd just be a really big game, and from a college football standpoint, obviously, but also prospects. See how Fernando Mendoza does against that defense, and then also what do they do? What do they do against a really good offensive line in Indiana? Pretty good run game, some really good receivers. So selfishly, I'm hoping to see that just from a scouting evaluation standpoint. But also I want to see who finishes strong. Mansour Delane, the corner from LSU. He's not going to be a combine darling, but man, he's got the best tape of any corner this season. And so can he finish strong for an LSU team that things have gone sideways this season? But I think the way he's been playing, won't be surprised if we're talking about him as a top 12 pick and someone on the Bengals radar when it's all said and done. So, a couple of guys like that, Texas Tech, we're talking about their defense for the first time in forever, if ever. David Bailey, the pass rusher, he's a bullet off the edge, and someone that could be on the Bengals radar as well. How does Texas Tech, relying on the defense, how does that look like finishing the season and potentially in the playoffs? So a lot of these guys that we're going to be talking about, especially on the defense in the top 20, top 25, they're going to be playing meaningful games coming up. And so very eager to see how they finish the season.
Love it. Make sure you guys are checking out. It's time. Bengals fans, it's time to go into your draft knowledge. Know what you're start watching on Saturdays and give yourself Sundays off if you have to, and start listening every Wednesday to Building the Beast, Dane and Dave Hellman on The Athletic. Great stuff. It is draft season. It was so awesome catching up with you. Appreciate your time, Dane.
Anytime. Thanks, Paul.